ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. You either make excuses or you choose to level up. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. Woo! Woo! Brandon Brittingham.
Appreciate you having me here today, man.
It's that kind of discernment, that kind of focus, that kind of forward thinking that's so important if you're going to succeed in business today.
Jeff and I are like friends. We're real friends.
We are and so you unlock fortune and freedom without all the stress that normally comes along with it.
It all comes down to your why. Your business, why are you doing it? How is it going to change the world and what's it going to do for your family?
I want you to celebrate your success.
Talk about the struggle, but I promise you, the story is in your struggle.
They'll never be able to say that about me because people only see me working hard in anything that I'm doing whenever they see me.
Focused on your success and the success of those around you.
But being that constant in your community, good or bad, whether things are great in the community, bad in the community, be steady.
Unapologetically do business and life on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. And we discuss how they do it and the big ticket methods they use. The things that make your life successful so you do life and business on your terms.
In and of itself, the only limitations that we really have on ourselves is the ones that we allow to be put on ourselves. And most people don't look at it in that perspective.
There's nothing wrong with being humble, but there's also nothing wrong with stepping into your superpower and letting people know who you are.
Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life.
Man, it feels good.
Baby.
There we are.
I had to live up to that intro there, baby. I'll tell you what. That's good stuff.
Yes. Yeah, you like that? You happen to know a
know
guy that makes good stuff like that happen, right?
That is good stuff. It gets you revved up. You got to get into the moment. I do that. By the way, salespeople, not just to jump right in, but this is
no. Let's jump in.
Stuff. But yeah, getting your head right is step one to life. I mean, you got to do that. So if you're out there in sales, you're going to see somebody. So I have this little mantra that I do, and I do it in my head many times a day. But I did it right before this. Not that I needed it after that amazing Chris Stone intro, but it goes like this. All right, check this out. It goes, I lead, not follow. I believe, not doubt. I create, not destroy. I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader. I'm a force for good, force for God. Set the standard. I defy the odds. I stand up. I take charge. I win. And then I walk in. I'm like a flipping animal. You can't say no to that type of action. So you do that in your head and enough times and you actually start believing it.
Yeah. Take my money. I was looking for my wallet. I'm like, I'm sitting down. I don't have it in my pocket. I thought I did, but I'm like, take my money. I could reach back there in the safe and grab some cash and throw it at you right now.
I was rummaging around prior to this for my ultimate sales letter. I had like an original, a good one. I don't know where it is. It's somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Dan Kennedy.
Yeah. If you've been following along on my social media channels, the shelf behind me is a little barren right now. Normally the cigar stuff is higher up because I had a flood and that struggle really made you persevere these last few weeks because we lost our first floor bathroom, which really wouldn't mean nothing, but I had my knee replaced 8 weeks ago. And Patrick Tenney, what's up? From Bancroft, the sales capital of Canada. I was just in Canada. But man, that struggle made you persevere. And the shelf where the cigar stuff is the Dan Kennedy shelf.
Oh, the DKS?
That's right.
Okay.
Does the Deej have his own DKS shelf in area? I think
I've got, the wall of sales. Everything.
You smatter it in.
I used to keep
sprinkle it about.
I used to keep it in order, but I kind of like just rummaging through and finding. Lately I'm back on this. I'm sure you've read this, a million times. I've gotten several copies of, but my gosh, people don't realize how psychological sales are,
Yep.
or sales is, but a good marketing message is basically a sales pitch, on paper. The media, as Dan Kennedy talks about message, marketplace, and media.
Yep.
The delivery system could be this, voice. It could be written. It could be over the phone or anything. So, understanding people's triggers is like step one in any kind of sales thing, and because it's two sides of it. There's triggers that attract people to you, and then there's triggers that repel people from you. So here's I always share this, and people tend to like it. There's 3 words you can say that will repel your prospects or customers from you, and those 3 words you say all the time. They're I, we, and us. And so someone who's trying to influence or sell something needs to kind of avoid those words as much as possible and use the other 3 words that attract, which is you, yours, and I'm here in the South, and so we say y'all. But the more you say that, the more they're interested. And so you got to work that in. And that's what, Dan Kennedy and the great marketers and the Gary Halberts and the great salespeople of the power.
Pay a little homage to my grandmother, Patrick Tinney's tuning in. We'll get your question answered about books on the shelf there in a minute, but I was in Canada. My grandmother passed last week, and it's all good. We're going to talk about that, how that relates to sales, and how I can say it's good for my grandmother to pass. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I have this little picture frame. The picture frame is from my friend Mike Capuzzi, who is a business partner, mentor, friend, was a coach of mine, and now a peer. But he gave all his clients this little picture frame. What's in it for me?
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Refers to your 3 words, right?
Yeah.
So I often think I try to dumb things down, and this was directly from Mike. This is a swipe from him. It was think like you're trying to communicate to your grandmother.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't it?
Gosh.
And so I, updated this photo, got this photo while I was up there. We had a nice photo board.
That's great.
And when all the events were over, everybody kind of picked photos that were important to them. So I updated it with that one. So there you go, Grandma. We put you on the internet. You wouldn't even know what that
beautiful.
is. But there you go.
How did you refer to her? Mine was Grammy. How did you refer to
Grandma? The classic Grandma. Yeah, the classic. My family, German and Dutch, and actually my grandmother wore a hair covering. She was brought up in the Mennonite faith, and she wore a hair covering until she was about 18 or 19. And so we're kind of like that influence of things. So it was the classic stuff is there.
Well,
so she was Grandma.
My other one was a meme, and so she also wore a hair covering because she was very Jewish, and so they would always wear something on their head too. Yeah, but she was always, the sweet. Traditional grandmas are. That's where you really learn empathy from. People who suffered and didn't know it, and would give their last, they give you the lamb chop, like the good lamb chop, the one where it's just like one bite of meat, and then they give you that, and they'd wait till you were finished eating before they would eat. And they didn't have to tell you they loved you.
Yep.
They just showed you in food.
Yeah, that's my grandmother in a nutshell there, for sure. And it's interesting that you brought up about eating last, because whenever we'd have family dinner, she'd always kind of sit off to the side in the kitchen. And eventually, your eyes avert to everybody else at the table and you're talking. But over the years, I caught a couple times, she's just sitting there smiling, loving it, and she created that space. And I think that lesson is really appropriate for, salespeople. Like what space, and this concept of creating space is big for me as of late. I'm writing a book about it. Space for Leadership. I did a podcast episode titled that way. And it's like, what space are you creating to bring people in around you so they can, model your examples, right? And I think that's something that's very important today. Does that resonate with you at all? That idea, that concept of creating the space to bring others in and around you?
Yeah, well, since we're in family now, don't get me started, but we'll talk about, so many of these things I learned from my dad, who was just Papa, who was just an immigrant and didn't have much education, but he said to me early on as an immigrant, he would say, Danny, in this country, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And then a couple of years later, he said, Danny, remember I said that? And I said, yeah. He said, forget about that. And he was trying to give the life lessons of building the space, I guess. And he said, Danny, in this country, you become the person that other people want to know.
Right.
That was it. So he would say, act like the person you'd like to become. And very quickly, you'll see that person in the mirror. And that's what attracts. There's only two ways to influence somebody to do something else. You could either persuade them through your actions, or you could force them at the end of a gun. And if you're using the forcing, you probably need to work on your persuasion tactics.
Yeah. Let's dig into that a little bit. In the pre-show, we're talking about Dan Kennedy, and I see you've got Ogilvy on advertising, which is a fantastic book.
Are you kidding me? That's like nighttime reading. You just love it.
Yeah, that's a great one. I mean, any of Kennedy's books are good to pick up. But Ogilvy on advertising, some older
ones too.
Is great.
Because Dan Kennedy, he lived off of his predecessors, whose names I don't recall right now. But that's one of the great things about reading. And Patrick Tinney has a bunch of books which are awesome too. He's big on negotiating, which is great. But what's great about reading books that you like is they always reference other books. They always reference other, people, mentors of theirs. And then you can just keep moving down the line. And the funny thing about that is you always end up at the same place. You always end up at the Bible.
Yep. 100%. 100%. Yeah. And I mean, this is not to turn this into a religion convert you episode. This is a great point that you brought up. Like, there's just a lot of good stories. There's a lot of goodness to be found in the Bible. And if you want a taste of this and you're like, all right, maybe this episode hit me at the right time. You're hearing Jeff and Dan at the right time. Start at Proverbs.
I was just going to say that. I mean, you're living rent-free in my brain.
Yep. 31 Proverbs.
31
you can read
days,
one a day each month. You got a couple extra for a few extra for February, depending on the year. You got one extra for all the other months. And that gets you started. Great way to go. And you can, you can try to dismiss the Jonah and the whale and Noah and the ark and the fire bush, all of this stuff. Set all of that aside and just take in the lesson. And then you begin to see where you settle with it all. And that's on you.
Yeah. And when people are looking at this, from a salesperson's perspective, our customers are judging us based on the outcomes of the services that you give. And you do big ticket sales. There's large items, there's large consulting fees, whatever. At the end of the day, they're not going to stay with you because of your salesmanship. They're looking at their outcomes. And so if you're looking to improve yourself, and Chris Stone knows this, it's one of my things. If you want to be a better salesperson, first be a better person. And so I think the art of practicing sales is the art of practicing personal development. And if part of that is going to Proverbs and reading those lessons along the way, I don't care if you believe or not. just after you do it for a few times, or after you see that other people who are faithful, take a look at the outcomes of their lives. Take a look at the outcomes of their connections, and their sphere of influence and people around them that support them. Take a look at that, the end result of a person who's faithful, and then decide for yourself: is that the type of life you want? Is that the outcome you want? And it's the same thing that's the same as a sales pitch that I would give it to anybody else buying any services. Don't buy this because you like me, because I'm exceptionally good looking. I mean, because that's always a problem. Don't do that.
You got to beat him back with a stick.
Yeah, that's it. It goes, but at the end of these 90 days, let's take a look at outcomes where we are. And so keeping track is very important for you as a salesperson, and then also for understanding that you're held to the standard and to the metric that you decide as the salesperson, and then just buy into it and have them buy into it. Dang, that was good. I got to write that one down.
That was good. Yeah, that was good.
Okay.
Often people watching the show see me kind of doing this. The only multitasking I do during our episodes is to write down those really great moments, so later we can carve out reels from our time together and share out more great moments from our show. So that's what I do in that moment. So I already got us covered, Dan. I got it.
All right.
Well, and you'll get that reel a little later here after the episode publishes and all that good stuff. But I think getting, you touched on something there that in my brain flashed the word bedrock. I'm a big believer in getting to the bedrock issue foundation of an opportunity, a problem, a hurdle. As you were talking about books, and Dan Kennedy's mentors, a couple of them would be John Caples, Maxwell Maltz. You talk about personal development. Maxwell Maltz is, I think, about as OG as it gets as far as our time. And so
was that the cybernetics?
Psycho-cybernetics.
Yeah.
I actually have a volume 1 issue of that book, like an original publishing of that book from, I think it was 1953, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes you want to be, imagine their little networking group, or, imagine the Carnegies and Rockefellers and all those, and Ford all hanging out together and just tossing out ideas.
Yeah. As you were talking, I reached back, and so that's the mastermind concept, right?
Yes.
A few people coming together for a common objective. In that example, those guys were all about world domination, market domination, right? So those conversations would have been really cool to archive and hear today. Yeah. But so this book, The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill, this is the book that originally shared the mastermind concept. A lot of folks think it's from Think and Grow Rich because it's referenced multiple times there.
Yeah.
But it's actually from this book. And this is a tremendous book of essays. It's also a beautiful book.
I love it.
We actually give this as a gift in my coaching group that I'm a part of now in the Battlefield Alliance. We give that as a gift to new members.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. I may have to join just for that.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. Come on in.
But, this is my high school Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
I still have that.
I mean, you talk about that book for a moment. We were talking about place strategy in the pre-show, and that's how we got started on Dan Kennedy, because we were talking about yellow pages. Yeah. And I said to Dan, hey, one time I put retail mattress store listing and a chiropractic listing and physical therapy listing because it's out of place strategy. Or that's Kennedy-esque. I said, yeah, that's exactly Dan. But Think and Grow Rich is a place strategy example. It really blew up. Think and Grow Rich was on bookshelves. Right. But it was also on your TV. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they ran Guthrie Renker, the same people that do Proactive today, and they put Tony Robbins into the stratosphere.
Well, yeah, but I remember Earl Nightingale was on.
Yep.
But I didn't know Napoleon Hill, though I have seen some old YouTube stuff with him.
They put Think and Grow Rich on as a product and course.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jim Rohn was into that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So place strategy. So for you sales dogs out there listening, like,
Yeah.
don't just rely on your car. Don't just rely on your retail location, your phone, your email box, right? You have to put yourself into these different places where like-minded consumers are shopping. That's why we went into the chiropractic space.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, that's right. I remember seeing those. But so you're touching uh, on the target marketing, which is important.
Mhm.
There's 3 legs to your marketing strategy. There's your message, and then there's your market. And you want to get as creative as you can with that market. It's you're marketing a landscaping service to a bunch of houses in an area that have rocks in the front yard. Not a good place.
Not a good idea.
Yeah,
Yep.
but it's not necessarily all that obvious. But I love the creative ideas of putting mattress stuff in. Think who uses this product, who could use this product,
Right.
and then create the message that would resonate with that person,
Yep.
and the headlines with that person. And I think right now we're in a special time. And one of the things that I'm really excited about with AI is that it gives the average person who is just so, who has seen it all already, who's, there used to be a time that people get amazed flying in airplanes or driving a car.
Right.
It was odd if you'd see a truck driver. Like, I mean, it was just, everything was, you'd be amazed. Now we've seen so much, nothing amazes anybody anymore.
Right.
Until ChatGPT. That just freaks everybody out. And it's really surprising to me that this happened, but it's for the first time in my kind of adult life when I've been able to pay attention. I see grown men, smart and capable and confident and all that stuff, scared. I mean, they're scared for the first time because they're like, my gosh, I'm not worth as much as I was 2 weeks ago.
Let's dig into that, because I'm really focusing on AI and more through the lens of what it's going to do to education, how the education system is, I feel, failing and not really preparing our students and teenagers for success as they graduate.
It's actually preparing them for failure and dependency. That's what it's doing.
That the education system, that is,
yes,
or AI. Yeah. 100%. I would agree with that. I think like I have a good close relationship with our school district superintendent, and we work well together. I have regular meetings, and because it's something I believe in. I believe that my community has got to produce good people for my businesses and my interests and my home where I live. I look out at the yard. I have a nice playground across the street. I want to see kids being happy.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that be destroyed and ruined. I want to see
love
kids
that.
for years enjoying it. Right.
There is nothing. I have a school right up the street, and there is nothing like this, an elementary school. There's nothing like the sound of screaming elementary kids at 2:30 coming out of school. It's just, it's delicious.
It's like freedom every day.
Oh, it's like candy. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, that's all right. That's all right. And so for me, I'm really tuning into AI as a topic, because I feel education needs to, instead of graduating people with certificates, they need to graduate them with competency. And I feel where a human can play into this role of competency with AI is, I look at AI kind of like the way you score a high diver from a diving board in the Olympics. Okay. You're going to throw out the high score. Those are the rules. You throw out the low score. You get an aggregated score kind of right down the middle, the meat of the middle. And that's what the AI result is to most any prompt you type in, right? AI gives you the answer as opposed to Googling and getting 10 answers you need to pick. It gives you like an aggregated answer. But as a human, we have the ability to expand on that result. We have the ability to give it that high score, right? And so I take a little different view. I don't take a scared view or an afraid view. I think as humans, we have the opportunity to use that as propellant, use AI as a tool to put forth our efforts and put forth our successes. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the way an intellectual would look at it. And I mean that in a laudatory sense, because it does make sense. But just like social media, just like TikTok, just like anything new that's come out with technology, it's wonderful when you learn to use it like a tool, but not intentionally making that point to use it as a tool. It will wind up using you. I mean, just think about this just in larger, higher level thoughts. Our phone rings a bell and we come running like Pavlov's dog. It literally, it is the embodiment of, the Pavlov's dog little statement there. And we've become that. So are we really the master of our phones, or is the phone really the master of us?
Right.
The fear, I believe, comes with when a percentage of the population lazily just lets it use them instead of you using it. And really, that's where school comes into play. Used to be, when we were growing up, school would teach you critical thinking skills. It's the person who has those critical thinking skills that can use this technology and judge whether to use it wisely for good or for bad. The greatest things, we went to the moon not because the technology was there. It wasn't. They used a slide rule. We went to the moon because at that time, moms and dads would let their kids go out with a cap gun and a roll of 30 little caps and take a hammer and bang it and blow the whole thing up, and the hooks almost hit you in the face, or you throw it in a fire. I mean, we figured out what to do.
How'd you know my childhood?
Yeah, I know. Well, because it was my childhood too. You put bricks and then you put a piece of wood on it and then you jumped over garbage cans with your bicycle. That's what we did without helmets. I'm not saying it's good, but you learn very quickly how to, as we said earlier, improvise, adapt, and overcome. Yeah. And those are the critical thinking skills that you get. I've often thought, I'm sorry to get into this, but I was thinking about it the other day. When did it change that it was, that you had to be too safe, that failure, wasn't allowed anymore. And I remember in New York City, there was, for the first time, a boy went to school and then he never came home and he was kidnapped and he went on a milk carton. Eton Pates was his name. I remember this. Must have been in the early 80s. And all of a sudden, parents would start walking their kids to school. Like they were never alone anymore. And then there was no more pickup games. It was just everything got more organized. And there was always a parent there kind of, being over people. And kids learned not to think, not to fail, not to try. If there was something new, you say, "Hey, Dad, what do we do now?"
Yep.
And I may be getting I don't know.
No. Listen, man, you're this is a lane I talk in and think about often. Not to go super dark. I mean, unfortunately, that recent Louisville shooting, it would appear as though the individual was upset because he was going to be fired at 23, still living at home, as I understand it. Now, I could be wrong there. And listen, mental health is an issue. Our society has a lot.
So here's that question that nobody asks, and I probably shouldn't ask here, but what are the odds that boy was it? I don't know. Was it a boy? A man?
Young man, 23.
Male people. Okay. So what are the odds that man goes to church? What are the odds that person has some sort of faith other than the material stuff that's around it all the time? And I don't know if that's the case with salespeople. We were talking about that earlier.
Yep.
Is it do you think there's some sort of correlation with salespeople being able to improvise, adapt, and overcome and deal with disappointments, sometimes very large disappointments,
Yeah.
better than those who don't have faith in
Yep.
something greater than themselves? I don't know the answer to that. I'm throwing out a question to cause trouble for you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question. And just to kind of sum up my thoughts on the gentleman in Louisville, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, if it was being fired at 23, here's exactly what you're talking about. We've stopped as a society challenging ourselves as a whole. It's not just young people, it's everybody. Okay, if you were fired at 57, 2 weeks before an IPO, you have a family, you've got a spouse with cancer, everything up. Okay, that's not that it excuses what happened, but that's different. Here's a young person that, you're going to rebound at that age. Unfortunately, they just didn't have the tools to handle that struggle.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
right.
They
And I think
have
faith,
the tools.
Yeah, I think faith can be one of those tools. And Dan and I got talking about this in the pre-show because I shared with him that my grandparents were they were devout Christians. There's no reason to pull that punch. They were devout Christians, very active in their church, very active in their community. The pews were filled, the mezzanine filled for both of them, and for people to come pay their respects. And for them, death was part of the journey. It wasn't a struggle. It wasn't an obstacle. It's part of the journey for their soul. And they both believe that should one leave before the other, their souls will be reunited together in heaven. And our family believes that. We all believe that. We took immense comfort in that they're all back together. Their daughter, my aunt, passed at 17, 30 some years ago from cancer. And everybody found grace in that moment this past week. And so when it comes to struggle and faith, and again, this isn't a show to convert you. This is we're just two guys talking that have some similar belief systems. But I think having faith that things happen for us and there's a reason that they're happening. There's a reason you didn't get that big contract in the moment. There's a reason, it happened. My guest for this week's show, Dan, had to cancel. That cancellation came in hours before I learned of my grandmother's passing and that I'd be away. I don't know. Is that connected?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just coincidental. But if you're always looking for these coincidental excuses, to me, I just think, I don't think that's the way to go about it. I think you're dismissing a learning opportunity from struggle. So I'll have you pick it up there about learning from struggle.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's all about outlook and everything starts from your attitude. But when you do have that attitude that everything happens for a reason, it forces you to look for a reason. And then once you start looking for it, what's my new opportunity? Which door is opening right now? All of a sudden your eyes are open and then you'll find something. I wake up in the morning. I have this little routine. I just wake up and I learned this actually from David Meltzer, but he said he challenged us for 30 days. When you wake up and you go to bed, just say thank you. And so the first thing I say is thank you. And when I go to bed at night, I say thank you. We try to do it for 30 days. Took me about a year and a half to get the full 30 days because I had to keep on starting over. And so when I wake up, I say thank you. And what it does is it triggers something in your mind that says, well, what are you saying thank you for? And then you start looking for things to be thankful for and grateful for. And then you have this spirit of gratitude that envelops you, at least for the first part of the day. And then you have to intentionally try to keep it up. But with that attitude, you have to keep on building up that force field around you. I'm not saying that disappointments don't happen fairly regularly. I mean, things just happen all the time. The difference, I believe, with the successful salesperson and the unsuccessful salesperson is the speed with which they're able to recognize where they are and then stop what they're doing and intentionally put on your oxygen mask, metaphorically, and get back into the the attitude of gratefulness. I have these 5 on. It's gratefulness, forgiveness, accountability, courage, and kindness. And you got to use them all throughout the day. But if you can get back into that little, I try to picture myself as like a diver, like an old time diver in the ocean where they have those big things
the
on.
big copper suit.
Yeah, the copper suit. So get into your copper suit, get that oxygen flowing, get some fresh air, start all over again, and then rock and roll.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, the sales game, it's one of triumph. It's one of struggle. You can feel like a failure one day and then you're a rock star the next, because it just sometimes goes that way. But the spirit of gratitude we've been talking about, Patrick connects with that. I'm working on a journal, a daily journal, taking what I use as my scripted day sheet. I'm finally formalizing it into a journal. It's going to work through the coaching program and Battlefield. And one of the things in there is writing down. It's not going to be a download. It's not going to be an app. It's going to be a journal. You fit it in your back pocket type of thing, right? You carry it with you because it scripts your day. You run your day off of this. I've been doing this for a number of years. Yeah. But one of the aspects of that is writing down what you're grateful for. And that practice changes a lot of things. And it could just simply be as simple as what you said. In the morning, thank you. And in the evening, thank you.
And you go, and we had a guest on my show a couple of shows back, Jennifer Gittimer, who said something. She was big into words, and like she doesn't have to walk the dog; she gets to walk the dog. And just that little phraseology change is, I mean, you can almost feel it.
Yep.
And so
that's very smart. Gittimer, any relation to Jeffrey Gittimer?
Yeah, he's my guy. That's how I got started. My first guy that I went speaking with was Jeffrey Gittimer. And so he's just my guy. And so I met Jennifer. I've been to the house and stuff. They're good people. And
so that's Jeffrey's wife?
Yes, his new wife.
Okay.
And she's a bit younger, but she has wisdom beyond her years. I'm a big fan of Jen. And I'm a mentee, there we go, of Jeffrey.
Yeah,
he's did some wonderful things. But this in big ticket sales and in small ticket sales, what I'm finding right now is this kind of connection that we're having right now. This kind of personal thing. This is, in my opinion, this is the future. With as technical as we become.
Yeah.
And as targeted as we can be now with our marketplace, and as direct we can get to people, I think figuring out a way to get this kind of personal touch with prospects and with customers is paramount to the future, because with all the artificial intelligence, people consciously or subconsciously are craving realism. They're craving the truth. Yeah. And how I'm doing that right now is as much bloody video as humanly possible. I'm doing video prospecting, doing video selling, video nurturing, video thank yous, video everything.
Yeah. And
tremendously effective. Because you can't fake this.
Yeah, no, you can't. And there's an immense connection that gets created. I've had throughout my career, I've had times where I've done video blogs, weekly video sessions, and then I get to a trade show. I'm walking down the hall, and it's like, Jeff, and you've experienced Deej, right? And you're like thinking, at first you're like, who is this person? Yeah, but then you realize they maybe they don't comment. And this is the other thing that, so we'll touch on this for a second. So what Dan just shared about all the ways he's connecting, and you're so right. Like,
well, good morning and hey guys.
Oh, that was this morning.
Love it. There's the exact point I was making about, how we can work with AI, that throwing out that top score that AI does, like they do the bottom score, you could be that top score human and be that connection.
Yeah.
And if you doubt connection, just go back 3 years. Go back 3 years this month. 3 years ago, April, what's today? 14th? I always forget what day it is. April 14th, 2020. And you tell me you weren't missing human connection. 1 month into the pandemic. Tell me you weren't missing.
Good morning and hey guys.
What is
Chris is like, Chris wants a double dose of Dan right now.
Yeah, that's it. Double dose of the Deej. Yeah, that's
Deej
right.
Squared.
They're craving the connections. And, and that was a big kind of shift for me too, because I realized we couldn't get out and see people, which I need just on a personal note.
Yep.
I have a character flaw, and that is and I think I think it's restlessness. I gotta see people. I need that. And so it was troubling for me. So I started building up my LinkedIn, profile. I started doing videos every day and all that. But now I've discovered with all those connections, if you reach out to them, either by phone or, and again, I do a lot of videos right through the LinkedIn thing, and works great. Ask me how, we'll hook you up with this. But sometimes if you call somebody and they see you a lot on these things, they're almost starstruck. I mean, I've had people say that, "Oh my gosh, you're calling me," or they would, squeamishly get the courage to call me and like, I didn't think you would answer, like I'm Elvis or something. But
you're the Deej,
everybody
you're kind
has
of a big deal.
Well, I'm a pissant, and you know it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's the connection aspect of things cannot be overlooked. And sometimes, like I've found, I don't work the retail store sales floor anymore, but I know from years past, and I know from talking to my crew, that sometimes with all the information that's out there, all the opportunity to search, all the books that you got on your back, over your back, all the books that are on the shelf behind me there, sometimes people just want to reach out and touch somebody. And I'm sorry that my dog is he's not being a good podcast participant at the moment.
Bring him on.
He's he's going to need attention. But sometimes that connection's important to just give that fast lane, that fast pass to connection, instead of hiding behind a funnel, hiding behind a sequence of hurdles. Just giving the exit ramp to say, okay, what question can I answer for you?
Yeah. And I don't know if you've done this, but I've done this. Sometimes I'll get a response back and I'll actually say, "Are you a real human?" You ever done that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's like, are you? And it's like, I'm hoping you are. Yep. Sometimes you get these calls though, and you don't know if it's a real person or not. And so I'll say, "Are you a real human?" And they'll laugh. "Oh, of course I did." So then I ask them this question: "What did you have for dinner last night?" And then they hang up. They haven't been able to figure that one out yet.
Yeah, I'm sure GPT 4.75 will figure that one out. They'll figure that one out.
That's right.
So a couple questions that I thought of asking you before we got on, and this might take us back to a different path of discussion, but in your view, why do salespeople get a bad rap?
Oh, yeah. From salespeople or from regular people?
From regular people.
Okay.
I mean, good salespeople look at good salespeople like the gods we are, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Everything is about insecurity. And people don't want to feel like a fool, and people don't want to be taken advantage of, and people don't want their friends to say, "Oh my gosh, why'd you do that?" And social proof is very important to people. It's like it's a major thing always to look out for. It's not your product or service or the way that you're conveying it to somebody. they're thinking to themselves, if I own this and if I buy this, what is my mother or father or wife or husband going to say, or my children or something on that? And they're just afraid of making a mistake and looking foolish. And it happens sometimes, and it only needs to happen once in somebody's life to do it. But for the good salesperson, I love this. I mean, this is fine if it's a bad reputation. I tell people all the time, if you're in the way to sell, roofing or something grimy or window sales or whatever it is, or whatever that you would expect the salesperson to come to your house and, be dirty and have a sweaty shirt and all that stuff. All you have to do as a salesperson is just be the total opposite of that. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Let me put these little things on my feet before I come into your house, have an extra shirt in the car, and look at you square in the eye and treat you like a human. Once you do that, you don't have to worry about selling because they're too busy buying.
Right.
For those salespeople who live up to the stereotype that you think of as a sleazy salesperson, you get what you're doing. Act like the person you'd like to become. Act like the person you would like to buy from.
Well, to circle it back, act like the person I would hope my grandmother would buy her next car from, her next heater from, her next roof from.
That's exactly right. I had I was coaching this financial financial advisor, and towards the end she was coaching me because she was so good, but we were talking about elevator pitches and stuff. She had the world's best elevator pitch. Check this out. I'm a financial planner, and she would do it like this. She'd put her head down. I'm a financial planner. My clients call me mom. Done.
Yep.
That's all, because when you're dealing with somebody's money, people are concerned with three things, and their family, their money, and maybe something else. I can't even think about what is something else. Well, whatever, but not necessarily in that order. And so if you can create that feeling, that grandma feeling, I'm safe. Gosh, all I want is an auto repair guy that I can trust. That's all I want. I don't care. I'll pay more. Just that I'll trust them. That I know my wife goes there and everything will be good.
Yeah. We got a question coming in on this topic. And I love that financial planner one. Financial planner, my clients call me mom. Love that. I love that. In our store, when I'm at networking events and I'm there for the retail store, or, in some other situations, I often start out with, my name's Jeff. I do business in your bedroom.
That's great, because you get a smile. And once you get the smile, you're halfway there.
And then I followed up. Now, let me explain why I said that to you. Because I do. I have a retail mattress store. We do business in your bedroom, and your bedroom's a private, personal space. We're going to respect your time. We're going to respect your money, because you don't even let your own parents into your bedroom, but you're going to let me in. And so this is an important purchase, and we respect the fact that you're here, and we're honored to have you here. So let's begin. Right? That kind of.
I'll never go to another store. Yeah, I'll never go to another store.
So Steve's a fellow mattress retailer, got his hands in a few different things. His question: can you explain why sleazy salespeople seem to have pretty successful careers?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me tell you about a sleazy salesperson. So when I got started in the stock brokerage business, I'm a fairly good talker, and I'm very dyslexic, so I forced myself to have a good memory. So I would remember all the lines. So here's the thing. So let's say Steve says to me, thanks for this stock, this idea, whatever, but I think I'm going to pass. This is what I would say. I'd say, Steve, let me tell you something. The only people that earn money by passing are NFL quarterbacks. And I don't see a number on your jersey. So let's go ahead and pick up a couple thousand shares today, and we'll run across the end zone together. Okay? Like, that is what we said. And it worked. And we get sales, but we never got customers. Never got the second sale.
You
We
one
never
night
moved
standed
it
them.
forward. What?
Another bedroom analogy. You one night standed
Yeah,
your
that's
customers.
it. The one night stand. Yes, Steve. People who are that way earn a lot of money and they make a lot of sales, but they have terrible lives. I wrote a book. Here's my book. Sales Proverbs, Wisdom of the Ages. How to lead a profitable life as a salesperson. You don't want to just make a sale. You want to have it's a very stressful life, always to be screwing people over, always to be, finding an angle. And because what happens is the more you do that, the more you attract that in your own life. I tell you what, when I was a stockbroker, I had a seminal experience. I had a guy who came into my office and he told me that he was getting divorced. And then I looked around the office, and this was 1994 or 5 or something like that. And I looked around the office, and the 4 offices all around, I was like in the bullpen, so everybody around, and then they were all divorced. Everybody was divorced. Now, I had kind of just gotten married. I guess it must have been 96. I just got married and all that stuff. I stood up, I went into my manager's office, and I said, "Today's my last day." And he said, "What's going on?" And I said, "I don't want to get divorced." It's a rotten life. It's a great life as a salesperson when you do it right and you create real customers and relationships and feel like Jeff, we're friends forever now. It's just, it's done. It's all there. And so I can call, I know you can call me for anything. I can call you for anything. I mean, that's a life, man. If you're just trying to sell, window treatments, and then, see you the next day, it's much more stressful on everybody. And you got to show your children. The whole thing, people think America is, here I go. Okay. Just give me 5 seconds here. People think America is built on, the independent the man in his bootstraps and all that stuff and go, and there's something to that, but we're not a nation of individuals. We're a nation of families. And families that congregate with other families and create little communities. And then those little communities create cities and states in a country. But it doesn't start with the person, it starts with the family. Salespeople that are being sleazy and just going out there to sell their window treatments are not creating a stable family that's going to create a stable country. And now I'm off my high horse. I'm sorry, Steve, that you had to put up with that.
No, I love that because it actually dovetails to what I was going to add to what you shared earlier. Those salespeople that do look to one night stand, look, we are a connected world of families anymore, right? And when you come in saying, yes, I'm family now, but really you're just one night standing people, you're just looking for transactions.
Yeah.
You might think in a world of 8 billion people, your opportunity to make money is infinite. And it might be. It is if you treat it the way we're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you're going to one night stand everybody, eventually you're going to run out of those opportunities. And I'm going through this now. I have a group that I'm a part of, like a peer-to-peer group. Yeah. Somebody came in to that group, ran through the group, sold some investments, and thankfully I don't have as much money involved as some others. But here's what's interesting about that. When that came to a head and that person was asked to leave or told to leave, there wasn't any pushback. There wasn't any explanation. It was just, I'm moving on to the next herd. I'm moving on to the next fishing hole. Right. And that's very odd to me because in how it was sold and presented, you would think, well, wait a minute, you're going to fight. Aren't you going to fight for this opportunity to stay here? Because these are some really good people.
Oh.
But no, they just moved on. And that told me a lot,
about them. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It told me a lot about them. Told me a lot about them. For sure.
We forgot to mention Joe Polish with all that whole thing. Joe Polish must be, we got to bring him in the.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he's big on creating family, creating connection. Yeah. Have you been following him lately? I know he was on sabbatical for like a year. Has he been back?
What's that guy's name? Dean Jackson?
Yes.
Yeah, the I Love Marketing. That I think he's back. But very strong. It's funny. He was a carpet cleaner. Started out
Yeah.
with the carpet cleaning, but
Yep.
did it the right way and has a community now. That people would dream about having.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. He's got his 25K mastermind, I think.
Yes.
Something like that. Yep. And he's a Kennedy student as well in Success Story.
Yeah.
So there's that family connection again. Right.
Right. So the sales family.
Notice how it comes out.
The sales family it's a tight knit group, and it's there's a certain connection. And the thing is, I've always felt more comfortable because what happens is you start selling different items and you start selling software things and you start going into offices instead of yards and things like that, and so it's a different type of person with a different experience. But I've always felt more comfortable with the guy maintaining the grounds around the big office building than the people in the office building. And I that kind of blue collar mentality in a white collar world is very attractive to me. I love that. I love being able to grab somebody on the show, say, when someone comes in, a salesperson comes into your place, come on in, let me hear your pitch. Let's see what you got. Yeah. And you have that kinship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talked about your bedrocks earlier. So you're a big Flintstones guy?
No. So this is where, one of those other things, and this will be good. We can maybe wrap on this for a little bit as we are at the top of the hour. But, the bedrock of a problem, the bedrock of an opportunity. So the Bible is great to get some parables, some bedrock information from things that are pre-printing press. Right. So if you think about this through this, I shared this on my trip up. Somebody called me, somebody new, younger, they're starting out on their entrepreneurial journey. I said, you need to be reading things pre-printing press because anything that survived all those years and is still in print today must have been worth something, i.e. the Bible, the Art of War. Beowulf is the bedrock story. The story of Beowulf is so appropriate to being a salesperson and getting to the root of the problem. If you're a salesperson, if you've not read that story, you need to, because it will kind of reframe your mind about, okay, is this, what's the real objection? What's the real opportunity? What's the real pitfall if this deal happens? You can look at it through all those different lenses, but you got to get to the bedrock root of the problem. And in the story of Beowulf, it was that the hero, Beowulf, didn't at first get down to the bottom of the swamp to kill Grendel's mother. And you have to read the story to understand what I just said, but it's all in there. And it's not a long story at all, but that story is so important. And I really remind myself often, am I putting this through my bedrock process of thinking?
Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's very well. If you really want to get human nature, and you have 3 months to read some books, the Dostoevsky will just, the 5 books will just, pick apart human nature all day long. I heard something the other day that resonated with me. Did I say before? Boys are confident. Yeah, no. Boys are confident. Men are certain, and that just. You can be wrong, and still be certain about it, but it's just a totally different feeling. One who's certain has done their research, one who's certain has done their preparation. And if there's one lasting thing I could leave with people, because a lot of times with all these online stuff we're doing and presentations that we're given and just these little like kind of Zoom calls that you're saying, this is it. You're really not prepared. And to make your prospect become your customer, they need to be certain, not only in the product, but in you. And so it's important for you to be your best when you're in front of your prospect. And to be that certain, you want to be prepared beyond nervousness. So nothing, a fly could land on your nose and you could wipe it off and go forward.
Go forward.
Just like you are here, Jeff, just knocking it out, even in your trying time. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you. And I think that's a great way to end up, that thought of confidence versus being confident, right? To me, when you said that, it's like, the confident young man. I had, one thing that our time together going up to Canada with my youngest son, because he came with me, is we had a lot of great conversations as father and son.
Yeah.
And, I heard a little bit back about confident speak, right? But then the father came out with the confident advice and feedback. Yes. And I think to translate that to that salesperson, like, think about all those confident times you thought you had it and you got smacked right down. Look at those scars. Those scars bring out your confident nature and abilities, right? Love it. Love that. Jeff, thanks for coming in there at the end. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed our time. Dan, I've truly enjoyed this, or Deej, I should say. I'm sorry.
Well, the
truly
Deej.
Deej. You're right.
Anybody could be Deej.
Right. But you're that Deej. Right. Well, man, I've appreciated our time together for sure. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for joining me today and pouring in and giving a lot of great input to my listeners and watchers. DanJordan.com in the show notes. Any place you want to send people as we wrap up?
Yeah, just there's this new website. It's called Google. Just put my name in there and reach out to me and talk to me. I am the same person in person as you're seeing me right now, and I am very receptive to anybody calling. I appreciate it. So just contact me.
There you go. Well, appreciate you. Appreciate your time and insights today. It's been a lot. This was a great episode. A lot of fun. Got a lot of moments to point out. So you're going to get double, triple, quadruple doses of the Deej as this show lives on and comes out to you in different places and different spaces. So thank you again for being on the show. Really appreciate your time. We'll see everybody else next week on the Big Ticket Life. Take care.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the Big Ticket Life. You've heard from another amazing guest living their own big ticket life, and now it's time to live yours. First, I'd love for you to take me up on my free gift to you. Claim your gift at gift.thebigticketlife.live. That's gift.thebigticketlife.live. See, all your life you've been told what is and what isn't possible by the loudest voices from the cheapest seats. It's time to finally do life and business on your terms. Sure, you've heard similar things, but without clarity on what can be done, it's easy to have your customers, employees, maybe even partners, and your spouse keep you from truly living a big ticket life. My big ticket methods shift you into that investor seat in your business, away from commodity and away from competition, into a market of one, so you can finally live your own big ticket life. So my gift to you is for you to book your discovery call today, where we'll uncover first the Chivo behaviors, those chief everything officer behaviors that hold you back, and why moving into the investor seat in your own business is critical. 2, we'll uncover the premium position that's up for grabs right now in your market that you're missing out on. And 3, which big ticket methodologies are just waiting to be dropped into your business to explode your sales and profits. So again, thanks for listening to this episode. I'd love for you to take action right now. Accept this gift. Book your call. Go to gift.thebigticketlife.live. Again, that's gift.thebigticketlife.live.